Good morning, everybody. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Mātia Patterson, COO Kinetics. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar session hosted by Kinetics and Data. It's a really pleasure to have you join us. I know everyone's busy, has busy schedules, so we're going to kick straight into it. I might just cover off the involvement of both parties in this session today. Firstly, we have obviously myself representing Kinetics as COO, and we've also got Lauren Nobbs, who is our representative from Data. We are your Microsoft partners, Kinetics being your primary reseller and Data being our very trusted distributor for many years. So we've been working in partnership with existing clients and with new clients alike, and we're really looking forward to sharing with you some of the key messages in today's session. Let's kick off into the agenda. Let's start with obviously a quick welcome and opening remarks from myself. Quite keen to take you through a little bit of the background about why modern workplace is so relevant in our modern workplace today. Lauren is going to go through that in a little bit more detail. And then I'll wrap it up with a little bit about NCE, which is our new commerce experience, which is the way in which you engage with Microsoft product. Firstly, to start with a little bit of housekeeping to get us started. I'm actually just going to mute everyone's microphones because sometimes we get quite a bit of noise coming through. So just done that now. And also, please feel free to use the chat session. My colleague Scott is going to be just checking if there's any questions throughout the session that you have. We'll actually circle back at the end of this to actually answer those questions rather than going into too much detail during the session because there's a lot of content. The next thing is that I wanted to inform you that we're recording this session for not only posterity, but for you to be able to share with your teams or people who perhaps weren't able to attend the session. It's only going to be half an hour, so it's quite a good watch, and there's quite a concentrated lot of information in here that you can share with your teams. And we'll also post a copy of this presentation in the chat so that you can get access to the material that we're going to be working through today. So without further ado, I'll kick off with the opening positioning, and that is that since the pandemic, businesses have permanently transformed. And why do I say that? If we look at our own example, we went straight into working remotely at a very short period of time, and so did our clients. So we had many of our clients who were already working in hybrid environments. And fortunately, we're using Office 365 and associated technologies, including remote access. If they didn't have M365, they could still get access to their core systems, email, and workflows. Now that meant that the world was plunged into this state of actually having to work remotely, and it actually meant that we had to transform not only the way that we worked, but in many cases our customers transformed their business strategies. We found that particularly off the back of the flight plans that we do regularly with our clients. We found that our clients were really wanting to accelerate initiatives that would allow for remote working as part of the new normal in ways that they want to engage with their clients and also with their staff. So that's a key change. Now, what does that mean with regards to the transformation of using tools that are inherently built for you to access remotely? Well, firstly, we have to look at the likes of the effect on Teams. So it was a massive growth story. And Teams was assisted in its growth story because Microsoft recognized that this was an opportunity to get a very, very broad adoption of Teams in a very quick time frame. So if you look from July 2019, where there were 13 million active users, to April 2021, there were 145 million users. Sorry, from 13 million users to 145 million users. That's a massive growth. And not only a massive growth for individual users, but a massive growth in the number of organizations that were using the likes of Teams. So that meant that, our environment in New Zealand, which has a massive market share for Microsoft products, and in particular, our customer base is really well engaged with M365 Business Premium, and all of the tools that are then available to that have been made available to a broader set of customers. So this is really the point of this webinar. The point of this webinar is to actually probably raise some things that you do know, and hopefully raise some things that you don't know about how you can use Microsoft and Office 365 to help build your productivity in 3 key ways. So without further ado, I'll actually hand over to Lauren to actually take us through her component of the deck, which is drilling into those areas, those 3 key ways that Microsoft has changed things forever. Over to you, Lauren.
Thank you, Matt. Cool. So yeah, just following from what Matt said, so we believe that people are the driving force behind business progress, and people are problem solvers, and they invent new things and they improve things. And in the context of business productivity, the pandemic has taught us 2 things, and that is that people are amazingly resilient and that they can adapt to changing circumstances, and that you also can't increase people productivity by treating them like machines. So when it comes to work, more work isn't equal to more output. And so companies around the world have continued to embrace hybrid work, and that shift has been particularly rapid for SMBs, who have transformed a lot of the way that they do their day-to-day work. So that's like organizations that have switched from restaurants switching from in-person dining to online ordering, or doctors who have switched from in-person appointments to telemedicine, or companies who have switched from in-person document exchanges to cloud hosting and remote signing. And so that is all about what the modern workplace is. It's a term that is used to define businesses who recognize digital collaboration, technology, and tools as the way of the future. And as the nature of work has changed, your employees will expect to be able to work from anywhere on any device, and they put a high premium on that work that enriches them. So when the productivity tools are there to enhance their quality and their experience of work, they're more likely to stay and be happier and be more valuable. And companies need to be able to do that and provide that empowerment to their employees without compromising their IT security and also maintaining the protection over vital IT assets. So how we worked in the past, earlier you probably had employees who were all co-located in the same place and they were able to easily collaborate from the same office. But businesses now don't have that same physical proximity and security that they once had. So with hybrid work, we're dealing with people who are working in multiple locations or working from home, and how you're interacting with your customers and suppliers will also have changed, as there are less in-person meetings and more business is being transacted online. So this change to modern work has introduced some new challenges to business leaders. And those challenges are, how can we do this distributed work better and enable employees to stay productive and connected with each other? And how can we do that safely without the safety of our network parameter in the office? And with the increased use of personal devices, how can you make sure your data is secure? And lastly, how can we use the productivity tools to ensure that our employees are working efficiently and they're saving time and resources? So Business Premium is designed to equip business owners to respond to those 3 key challenges. Next, I'm going to walk through a couple of common scenarios and how you're able to address them with Microsoft 365. So starting with data, it has become the lifeblood to every business. And with the shift to hybrid work, your company's data now lives outside the traditional borders of your office and your company devices. And this means businesses now, they lack visibility into their data estate and no longer have that same control over your data. It's being accessed on personal devices, in different locations, being shared to personal accounts or external people, from cafes, public transport, restaurants. And so the challenge is, how can you continue to provide that flexibility to your employees without compromising your sensitive information and introducing risk to your data? Discovering that sensitive information that your company holds and managing it is challenging. 88% of organizations say that they have no confidence in that they can detect sensitive information and prevent the loss of that data. And as more as hybrid or remote work continues to grow and more data is being shared through non-company managed devices, that problem will continue to compound. So for the first scenario, as a business, you'll be dealing with lots of sensitive information, and that can be customer records or employee records, credit card numbers, confidential IP. 88% of SMBs handle personally identifiable information, whether that's their employees or customers. And so a fairly common scenario is that a company will have a restricted or locked down folders, and those folders have sensitive files that can only be accessed by executives or the senior leadership team. And often those folders can be protected by things like password protection on Excel spreadsheets, but measures like that are often used inconsistently and they don't travel well. So that can lead to documents being emailed or saved on USB keys or locally. Matt, do you have a hand up for?
Yeah, I just wanted to say there were a few people who joined the webinar after I was talking through the ways you can actually ask questions and access. So for everyone's benefit, if you have any questions, please raise them in the chat session, and Scott, who's one of our team, will pick up those messages, and we can then answer them at the end of the session. Or if it's relevant, Scott will call them out during the session itself. So sorry to interrupt there.
No worries. Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Cool. So as I was saying, those security measures, so having files with restricted permissions or using password protection, it's often used inconsistently, and it can lead to things, people getting around it, so downloading files locally, sharing it, saving it on USB keys, which leads to those files having no protection. And at the end of the day, anyone can download confidential information and leave the company. So how you can address that with that risk of business premium is that business premium includes sensitivity labels, and they are used to encrypt documents and apply access restrictions. So, for example, when a sensitivity label has been applied to a document, that travels wherever the document goes. So that means it doesn't matter if someone tries to download the file or share it externally, print it, screenshot it, copy text out of it. The sensitivity label will prevent any actions that are not allowed and prevent unauthorized users from accessing that content. So say you have a document with a list of all of your clients and all of their information or your sales forecast, and then you've applied a sensitivity label to it that marks that document as being confidential, and it locks the document. So essentially it's locking the document, and because it's marked as being confidential, it's automatically encrypted and only company employees can access it. So if you have a contractor that joins and they download that document onto their device, if they download that file and then they leave the company. If they try to open it, they will be unable to decrypt the document since they are no longer an employee. So even though they have the physical copy of the document with your client information, it's completely useless to them. So another capability in Business Premium is data loss prevention. And that is all about preventing users from inappropriately sharing content with people who aren't meant to have access to it. So it's looking for sensitive information like those credit card numbers or company IP or employee records, all of that you consider sensitive to your organization in your content, and then it applies protective actions to that. So how I like to think about data loss prevention and sensitivity labels is that data loss prevention is preventing sensitive information from leaving your company, and then sensitivity labels are helping protect it once it's already gone or it's left the organization. So they're also not just preventing or protecting data from being stolen or leaked maliciously, as actually a more common cause of data loss is accidental. So if you think about how easy it is to have a confidential email and accidentally send that to someone with the same name as someone who works for a company but is external, it's really easy to for data to be accidentally shared, and people do it often without realizing it. So With these tools in place, you're protecting your employees from making those mistakes that can cause harm to the business, and it allows them to focus on doing their jobs, knowing and having the confidence that there are tools in place and security in place to protect them. There are many information protection capabilities in Business Premium. It gives you all of the tools for the complete framework, which will help you identify where that sensitive data is in your organization and what documents and locations, help you protect it and retain it and delete it. So this is going to enable you to meet any legal or industry compliance requirements that you have as well. So moving on to a productivity example, legacy communication tools and behaviours do hinder teams from working productively. So an example of this is if you're sending email attachments or copies of documents for people to review, that can create versioning issues, and it can lead to scenarios where there's lots of versions or multiple copies of a document. They're all saved at different places. No one knows where the most up-to-date version is. The back and forth time with emails being sent and people looking for information really slows down work, and it prevents people from working productively, which is frustrating for both employees and your customers as well. There was some research done by the McKinsey Global Institute, which found that knowledge workers typically spend 28 hours a week writing emails, searching for information, and collaborating internally with their colleagues. And 9.3 hours each week of that is spent looking for information and gathering information. There was some more research done by IDC, which suggested that knowledge workers also typically spend 2.5 hours of their day looking for information. So those statistics really highlight the importance of how using modern technology to collaborate and work with information more efficiently can save time, and means that if you're using the tools correctly, the time that is being wasted on internal and efficient collaboration can be used to help grow your business instead. So with Microsoft 365, you can collaborate in real time. So firstly, best practice is using the file sharing. So you're able to share links and attach links to documents rather than sending copies. There's co-authoring built into Microsoft 365, and that is when multiple people are able to work on the same document or spreadsheet or PowerPoint together at the same time, and you can see people's changes that they're making to that content as they're making them.
Case in point is obviously this presentation itself. So Lauren and I collaborated over the last week, pulling this together, sharing the information on the same document, being able to bounce back with different ideas and work in a collaborative sense rather than pulling together separate efforts and then consolidating those at the last minute, which used to be the way of doing things. But this is a much better way to do it online in real time.
Exactly, yeah, good example. And a common concern that I get with the co-authoring is that you're worried that if you share a document with someone, they're going to ruin the whole thing after you've spent hours working on it. But there are tools that are in place to protect that. So you've got versioning in Microsoft 365, and that's turned on by default. And that allows you to view when an item has been changed, who's changed it, and if a mistake is made, you can roll back to a previous version. So if I came in and ruined this whole presentation that me and Matt worked on, he would just be able to revert and roll it back to a previous one. And you can
or vice versa. Yeah.
Exactly. And you can view the previous versions as well, so you can compare them to now without needing to overwrite the existing one. So it acts as a safety net. So then you've got that in place. So you are able to do that document sharing with confidence that you're able to revert back to previous versions if it goes wrong. There is also track changes in Word, and so that's where when you turn on track changes, you can have multiple people all working on the document, and each of their additions are marked with a coloured underline, and any deletions that they make have a stripe through. And then that's all in different colours. So each person who works on it has a different colour, and you can see all their changes. And as the document owner, you're able to review the changes that they make, and you can mark whether to accept them or reject them. So if you accept them, they'll be applied to the document. If you reject them, nothing, they'll be removed. And that allows you to just keep control of the content of the document, and then monitor any new changes that happen to it. Also with the document collaboration, you can do @ mentions. So you can, in your comments, you can do an @ symbol and then type in one of your colleagues' names. That will tag them in the comment and they'll get an email to the link so they can continue to, they can reply and then work on that document with you. More recently as well, a new feature has been added to Microsoft Teams, and that's called Excel Live. And so Excel Live allows you to collaborate on spreadsheets with your team during meetings. So you'll share an Excel spreadsheet in a Teams meeting window, and everyone in the Teams meeting is able to work on that without leaving the meeting. So they can make their changes, they can filter it without affecting the view of anyone else. There's no need for a screen share. You can have everyone working on it at the same time. And so all of these features that allow collaboration, they are all part of Microsoft Teams as well. So Microsoft Teams is your hub for communication and collaboration. It's got the video calling and meetings, you've got your chat messages, you've got your Teams where you can have your documents saved and then do that sharing and co-authoring all from Teams.
And you'll get to transcribe any of the meetings that you're recording as well. So if you want a written copy to then share later or edit or add to a document, you can use that feature as well. Quite powerful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cool. So that's my productivity scenario. I'll hand back over to Matt now to talk about the Microsoft New Commerce experience. And just
Thanks
if
for
you
that.
have any questions around that, just pop them in the chat as well and we'll address them at the end.
Sounds good. Thanks, Lauren. So new commerce experience. So when you are procuring Microsoft software from Kinetics, previously there was a program called CSP and it's now transitioned to NCE, which is the new commerce experience. And most of our customers have already transferred onto NCE. So if you're on the call and you're already in the NCE program, you're probably already aware of these changes. But there is still some clients who are currently still on CSP, and we've got a deadline of the end of June to basically get all of those legacy CSP agreements transferred onto NCE. So what is it? It's basically a way for us and for Microsoft and Dicker Data to actually look at ways to bring new features and offers via the NCE platform. So firstly, NCE has some new benefits that is over and above what CSP used to offer. The ability for trying products through free trials. So this is something which wasn't previously available in CSP. If you wanted to get some trial licenses ourselves and the Dicker team can facilitate that and make sure that you can actually then trial those new products live, which is quite key. Then there's also the ability to give price protection for a term. And the nice thing about that is that there's 3 options in which you can actually procure your Microsoft licenses. I've actually got an example here of M365 Business Premium. And you can buy monthly and pay monthly, which means that it's just an as-you-go procurement method. And that is, because of its flexibility, the highest priced option. The next best option, which a lot of our customers have taken up, is an annual commit to the individual license, but it's paid monthly. So you can distribute the cost of that over the year. And then the third option that you've got to procure Microsoft licenses with is an annual upfront purchase, which means that you pay the full amount for that subscription upfront, and then you've got obviously complete certainty as to what your costs are for the rest of the year. Some interesting things that are coming out from NCE in the future are that they're looking at extending to 3-year terms for other seat-based products, which means that you can actually further lock in that budget for your Microsoft licensing for a 3-year term upfront, which is very attractive to any CFOs out there who are wanting that predictability of spend going forward. There's also some new features. Both of these features on the right-hand side have not been released yet, but they are upcoming. Is multi-geographical options for your Azure environments. So you've got the option to use and host your data or your applications or or your workloads in geographies other than the local hub. So reality is that we're going to be getting a Microsoft data center in New Zealand. So a lot of our workloads and products are going to be hosted here locally, which obviously improves latency time, et cetera, but you do have an option to look at those foreign geos. Lauren, did you want to comment on any of those things from your perspective?
I just want to mention that you can also, it is possible to do a combination of monthly and annual commit subscriptions as well. That is good if your company has temporary roles or seasonal, or it fluctuates based on how many roles that you have. So you might know that 90% of your roles are going to be permanent, and you could put them on the annual commitment subscription, or in future on the 3-year commitment subscription, but have some subscriptions in the monthly option that you can fluctuate more easily as more people join or the numbers change.
That's a really good point. And in fact, a lot of our existing customers use that ability to split across things to give them more flexibility as perhaps they're growing, perhaps they've got additional staff coming on, or perhaps they're flexing at the moment. There's some reductions in some areas and increases in others. So it just gives them a little bit more flexibility to be able to manage those changes. So look, that's sorry, Lauren. Go for it.
Another thing with the price protection. So Microsoft, if you have your annual commitment term in Microsoft, they will be reviewing license prices twice a year. Microsoft they review what the pricing is, and they may, in some cases in other countries, they have aligned or changed the pricing to align with the US. So having the annual commitment subscription does provide you that protection if the pricing is to change at any point. You are locked in pricing for the full term.
Good call. Thank you, Lauren. Appreciate that. So look, that's a little bit about NCE, about how our existing customers are actually engaging with that. That completes the content of the presentation today. And so I'd love to use this as an opportunity to answer any questions that you might have of myself or Lauren. Please either put those things in the chat, or we can unmute everybody. And
if you maybe raise your hand, we can unmute you, or just unmute everyone.
Yeah.
I had something, Matt, that wasn't added to the Q&A, but certainly a question for you and Lauren. How does the business and the people here go around actually in setting up data loss prevention? Is that something they just go in themselves, or is that something that engage with someone?
So I know we've had both scenarios, Scott. They've certainly come to us and talked to us about how we can actually use data loss prevention in their existing environments. And in some cases, that becomes a standard part of our rollout and our build. But there is also plenty of examples of customers actually doing this themselves from the perspective of wanting to protect perhaps specific roles within the business and wanting to make sure that they've got the right level of cover across their staff. So I suppose the answer is it could be happening both ways. Good point you've raised, Scott. If there's things that have been raised here today that you'd like to implement, give us a call and we'll engage with you to make sure you've got the right sort of cover that you need, because it is very much an individual requirement in most cases.
Thanks, Matt.
Did you want to add anything there, Lauren?
Yeah, covered perfectly. Yeah, I was just going to say, there is also really good reporting capabilities in data loss prevention. So often part of it when you're configuring that is you might not know how much sensitive information or data is there. So there are really good kind of reporting features to help you identify that, and then Kinetics are able to design you a policy configuration that is tailored to what data you're dealing with, and also if you've got any particular obligations for your industry or to meet any compliance requirements, it can be used for that as well.
Good stuff. Right, 1 minute to go. Is there any further questions from the audience? Okay, so if there's no further questions now, that's fine. it's an opportunity for you to maybe think if there's anything that you want to follow up with. I would welcome you to contact our client engagement team. As I said, I will be providing the video for this for you to share with your teams if they're interested, and also a copy of this presentation so you can share some of the concepts that Lauren has talked about, and we're here to help. So from Kinetics perspective, if there's anything that you're interested in following up on, we're here to help you. So thank you very much for your time. I'll close out now. Have a great morning. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.